one of my classes at university ended at like 9 p.m., and it was in the winter, so it was already pitch black. That night I stayed a bit to talk to my professor about some stuff that didn't make sense to me, and I left school like around 9:25. My university is a commuter school, so a lot of people don't drive, and instead take the transit or train to get home. And at night, the train comes like every 20 minutes. I got on the train at like 9:50 or something. I'm not really too sure about the timings, to be honest, but it was super late. It takes an hour usually to go to and come from school, but at night, it can take like an extra 45 minutes. I take one train from university to downtown Calgary, and then wait for another train to take me to my neighborhood. This occurred on the second last train at the second last stop. Since my area is the very last stop in the train line, the train is usually very empty apart from a couple of people who are also coming back from university, and, of course, some homeless people or crackheads who ride the train all night to pass time or to have some warmth. My train cart was completely empty, apart from this other student and one other woman, who I think was maybe in her 30s or 40s, and she was well dressed, like business casual type outfit, so I did not really make much of her. The train had those seats where the seats face each other, so people end up looking right at each other if they don't stare out the window or oogle their phones or books. I was sitting on one end, and this woman was sitting on the opposite end of the train cart. As soon as the only person in the train gets off at their stop, which was McKnight Station, this woman gets up, makes her way down the aisle, and sits directly in front of me. At first, she didn't say or do anything, but then, literally no exaggeration whatsoever, she leans in so close to me as I'm on my phone that I could probably kiss her forehead if I leaned in a bit and looked up, and she just sat there, trying to determine what I was doing on my phone or something, and she just sat there, asked who I was, what I was doing, where I'm coming from, what I'm studying, and then she inquired about my headphones, and asked if they were expensive, and wondered how I got them. What made me more scared was the way I looked and the way I carried myself, because I had a leather backpack, a nice watch, I was well dressed, I had expensive, nice-looking shoes, and I genuinely thought I was going to be molested, or stabbed to death, or both. My fears actually came true, because this woman genuinely put her hand on my thigh near my crotch, and leaned in some more, and gave me the creepiest half-assed smile I have ever seen. What made it worse is that, between the stops where she sat in front of me, and the stop I get off on, the length between the stops is the longest ever. It's like 10 minutes compared to the 3 to 4 minutes it takes to get to other stops. And it might have been 10 minutes, but it felt like 30 minutes. My stop eventually did come, though, and this woman even put her leg between the seats to try and stop me from leaving or something of the sort. But I really just powered my way through and left, and ran home because I was scared she'd pull up behind me or something. Side note, there is a mall in downtown Calgary that a lot of students from my university go to, so they can hang out with friends. Connected to this mall is Bankers Hall, which is exactly what the name suggests, and it is also connected to other office buildings. Whenever I go to the mall with my friends after school, I sometimes see this woman sitting there with her associates eating up at the Starbucks, and one time she noticed and recognized me, and she gave me that same half-assed creepy smile she gave me on the train. This happened a few months ago, and I was without a car and relying on public transportation to go to my college campus. I'm a small 24-year-old female, and usually quiet and reserved when out in public. The semester had just started, so I was new to this particular bus route. I got on the bus at 9 a.m. With a crowded bus and an hour-long ride. I pulled up a book on my phone to entertain myself. But 9:30, I was the only one still on the bus, but only for a stop. This guy got on the bus. He had a bit of a tiff with the driver about wearing a mask, then sat down on the right side of the bus. I was on the left. He was wearing an old ratty backpack. One of the straps was broken, so he was wearing it like a crossbody bag. He kind of sprawled all over the seats and tried to engage in conversation with me from across the bus. I ignored him and pretended to keep reading. He moved seats so he was right behind me. I indicated I was trying to read. He started asking me questions. What are you reading? Where are you going? Which school? I gave him vague answers, not wanting him to know where I was headed. The rest of the ride continued in this manner, though we did move a few rows back near the end. My destination was a central hub where I would then catch the commuter train, as my school was several cities away. I didn't know the station well, so was a little disoriented. This guy left the bus through a different door than me, so I thought that would be the end of our interactions. In my confusion, I walked past the machine that would scan my bus pass, and I had to backtrack. I met up with this guy again while backtracking, and he followed me towards the train platform. Questions started again, more personal this time. He noticed I was wearing cowboy boots. Do you ride horses often? He asked. I replied with a curt no. At the platform there were other people, and a sign indicating the buses were running late, so I pulled out my laptop to email my professor that I might be late. This guy had sat down next to me and suddenly piped up, "Hey, I can't see your computer screen." I replied that I didn't want him to. The other people were noticing that I was, in fact, not traveling with this guy, and I had pulled out my phone to contact authorities. The creepy guy left, finally, right before I got a responding call from the Transit Authority police. The train arrived shortly after, and I safely boarded without being followed. I was completely freaked out, and never comfortable taking the bus for the next month. My only consolation is that my destination was a busy place with lots of security cameras. I shudder to think what might have happened if I had disembarked at a regular street stop. I wanted to share my scary encounter that occurred just yesterday on the bus. So for a bit of context, I'm a college student. Without giving too many details, I'm a woman on the smaller side of average female height. I currently do not have a car, so I use my bike, walking, and the bus to get around. My college has a transit service that allows you to scan in with a student boarding pass for free. Other non-students are allowed to ride the bus by paying upon entering or purchasing a ticket beforehand. I frequently ride the bus for various reasons, grocery runs or treating myself to food, and yesterday I had the idea of treating myself to a movie after all the exams I have been doing lately. I'm an avid horror fan, and knew that Terrifier 2 was in theaters, so of course I wanted to see it immediately. One of my friends told me they found it funny and really enjoyed it, which is more than enough reason to go see it. On a side note, it was good and hilarious, but if gore is not your thing, I do not recommend it. I was looking at the tickets the day before yesterday and trying to decide which time slot I wanted to see the movie in. Looking back now, something in my gut told me to choose the earlier time. I wish I had listened. Another detail I want to add is that there are two bus sizes, a large one and a small one. The bus I rode during the incident was the smaller one. The stop where I get on the bus is the beginning of the route. Unlike every other stop, the driver usually parks the bus here for 5 minutes and gets off to use the restroom or have a quick break before continuing with the rest of the route. Upon entering the bus, I noticed only 2 other passengers, another girl about my age and an older man. The girl was in the front of the bus on the right side, and the man was in the second row on the left side. I sat on the right side, several rows back. I usually read something on my phone or listen to music on the bus, so I immediately got on my phone when I sat down. Everything was okay for a little bit, until I looked up and noticed the man repeatedly staring at me and looking away before staring at me again. I was immediately apprehensive, but brushed it off. He started speaking aloud out of nowhere, saying things like, "Beautiful baby," and "so damn fine," while staring at me. I was frozen out of fear, and could only keep looking at my phone and trying to ignore it. This continued until I worked up the courage to say, "Sir, would you please stop staring at me?" To which he claimed he was not staring, and told me I was extremely beautiful. Unsure of what to say, I just stupidly thanked him and went back to my phone. He had his body slightly turned, but when I confronted him, he faced fully forward. The driver got back on, and we started moving again. So everything was calm for a bit, though I was admittedly still shaken up. This calm did not last long. Obviously, this creep couldn't contain himself, and just had to voice his opinions about me out loud. He started saying similar things again, but also added some new phrases, such as, "Gonna make you my wife," and by far the worst one, "I'm gonna get you pregnant." I was shaking at this point, and was unsure what to do. I desperately wanted to sit next to the other girl, but did not want to pass by him to sit by her. We made it 2 other stops before the girl got off and said sorry before leaving. My heart dropped to my stomach. The last thing I wanted was to be alone with this guy. Luckily, more people got on at this stop. A middle-aged couple and a guy about my age. In a panicked voice, I sort of shouted and asked the guy my age if he would sit with me. He was a bit confused, but came to sit by me, and I immediately felt relief. The stress of the situation got to me, and I broke down crying. I guess the creep took this as an indication to leave, because he swiftly made his exit after that. The kind younger guy who sat next to me and began to comfort me. I am so grateful he chose to ride the bus that day. The bus driver noticed the commotion and called me to the front to get information in order to make a report. He told me he didn't hear anything, but that buses have video and would hopefully pick up what the creep was saying. He told me that same man had recently been kicked off for a similar incident, and that he would be reporting this immediately. For the rest of the ride, the younger guy and I talked about things like majors and other school-related stuff. I want to go into the marine biology field, and he is a graduate student in mechanical engineering. I made it to the movies and back home safely, but I definitely learned a lesson. My boyfriend is going to help me look into some self-defense items, and he taught me a few fighting tactics. I'm still shaking just writing this. I'm actually really afraid to leave my room now. Sometimes it's easy to forget that creepy encounters with weirdos can happen at any time. They aren't just stories on the internet. I've lived in a big city all my life. I've been riding public transportation alone since I was 15. I have my angry, Don't mess with me, subway face, down packed and considering myself pretty savvy. All that being said, I've never been so scared on the subway in my life. One night, my significant other and I were headed home from dinner and a movie. I had a great time and was talking nonstop about the movie. We had to transfer trains and blended into the crowd, leaving one train and headed up a path to another. I inadvertently cut this guy off when walking up the stairs. I turned, apologized quickly, and kept moving. We took a roundabout path to our connecting train, and I babbled on all the while. When we boarded our final train, I noticed my significant other glancing around uncomfortably. He grabbed my arm, which is uncharacteristic of him, and said we had to change train cars. I shrugged and obliged, still babbling. A few stops later, my significant other wanted to change cars again. I started getting nervous and asked what was up. The guy that I cut off 2 transfers ago was on the same train as us. I told my significant other he was being paranoid. Even so, we changed train cars a random number of times. Each time the guy mirrored our moves. I took a chance and glanced back to see the guy staring dead at me with a creepy smile on his face. He was big and unkempt and intimidating. Now I'm genuinely terrified. We approached our train stop and hesitated. We didn't want this guy to know which stop was ours. My significant other pulled me off the train right before the doors closed. The guy followed. We jumped back on the train quickly. The guy followed. My significant other pulled me off one last time, and the doors immediately closed, trapping the creeper on the train. I stood on the platform breathing hard with my arms around my significant other, and the guy banged on the train window once with that creepy smile on his face as the train pulled out of the station. We walked home in the dark with our arms around each other and constantly looking around. I didn't take that path home for a few weeks. If my significant other wasn't with me, I would never have noticed I was being followed. Now I always look around when I'm traveling on public transit, just to be sure.